I say you're
Go ahead.
figuring out what?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So, like, what's the topic? Want to talk about Trinity?
You want to give an argument against the Trinity? Go ahead.
It depends on your understanding.
Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Wait, okay.
I take brief is understanding.
This guy in the server posted that he has this argument that debunks the Trinity, whatever. Anything.
Wait, 1 second. I have a question. wasn't Veritas like somewhat a Mysterian?
Bro, Aggie, you said you want to give it. Why you
Wait,
doing all
1 second.
this?
1 second. Wait. Do you hold to Mysterianism?
Bro, what's that got to do with you giving an argument?
No, because if you hold to Mysterianism...
Oh, so it doesn't have anything to do with the argument.
Wait 1 second. If you
Why? Okay, then why do I have to engage?
Wait 1 second.
Then why do I have to engage with the question?
Wait. I would give a different argument depending on the model you hold to.
I already told you, I take the model which Boethius takes. I already told you.
Wait, how is it articulated in modern literature?
In modern literature, well, Boethius is not modern, so it wouldn't be articulated in the modern literature. What are you talking about?
Okay, wait, give the account.
Yeah, so there's three persons. The three persons are the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and the three persons are co-eternal, co-substantial, and they are one God.
So there are three persons. The three persons are co-substantial, co-eternal, and they are one God.
Yes.
Again, how are they related to the divine essence or to each other?
How they relate to the essence is going to be an identity, and the identity is going to be relative between the persons and the essence, and the way in which the persons relate to each other is going to be in reference to the mode of possession.
Okay, that's good. So here's my problem with that though. Like, wait 1 second, I have a question. So you said you said the persons are going to be identical to the divine essence, but like relatively, right?
He's going to be repeated again, Clive.
You said that I asked you how are the persons related to the divine essence and to each other. You said they are related by an identity statement.
Yeah.
Okay, is that identity statement going to be relative?
Between each other or between the essence? Which one?
Between each other. Wait, and between the essence as well. Like, what would you say? Like between the essence?
If we're considering the persons and the essence, there's going to be a relative identity statement, which is going to be cashed out as the Father is the same divine essence as the Son, but not the same person.
Yeah. So would you say the divine essence is a person?
Okay.
Wait, what's your answer?
My answer, did you hear the model?
Why are you studying? Why are you studying?
No, I'm shocked because
I asked you a simple question. Wait, I asked you a simple question. You began studying.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. Did I say the divine essence is a person?
No, I asked you, is the divine essence a person? You began to stutter. You didn't give an answer.
So you're the one starting right now. No, I was shocked.
Wait, but 1 second. Can you give an answer?
Why are you interrupting yourself?
Wait, can you give an answer?
He's interrupting himself.
You know what I'm saying? So let's count.
Wait, give an answer.
Don't interrupt me. Let's count. So if I say there's three persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, that's three persons, right? Then I say there's the divine essence which they share. How many persons can we count? Because you Muslims love counting. Let's count. 1, the Father. 2, the Son. So why would you ask me a dumb question?
Wait, but 1 second. You said, do you believe the persons are absolutely identical to the divine essence?
No, I don't believe that.
Wait, so I asked you like this about this identity relation. I asked, is it relative or absolute? You clarified by saying like, are you talking about the identity relation between the person to the essence or to each other? There's going to be like some distinction here because the both identity statements are going to be relative under your framework. So why did you bring that up?
Why did I bring up the statement about relative identities? Are we asking?
Okay, listen. No, I asked you this identity statement, posited in the context of the Trinity. Is it going to be relative or absolute? You said, are you talking about identity statements to the divine essence, or are you talking about identity statement among the persons?
What? Because the point is, when you're talking about identity statements and the way in which it's indicated, right, the statement isn't going to be the same. So I was asking you to specify what, right? You didn't specify what. Hence, I said, if we encompass the divine essence and the persons, it will be cashed out like this. And the statement is going to be of relative identity. So why are you asking me a question if it's absolute?
Okay, so good.
It's going to be relative.
Okay, so good. So the identity statement between the person to the essence is relative, right?
Yeah, it's going to be a relative identity statement, which is understood.
Okay, so you would say the Father, Son, and Spirit are identical to the essence under some sort of but like different or another sort of respect, so like a categorical similarity between them.
You're speaking under your breath, bro. Speak up.
Wait, I'm saying, so you would say the persons of the Trinity are identical to the divine essence under some sort of, but different than another sort of.
Different. There'll be different. No, there wouldn't be different relative thing which they're identical to. We're going to say that the persons are identical to the sort of, which is going to be God, and different in respect to another sort of, which indicates the three persons to not be the same.
Yeah. Okay. So I believe there are going to be like problems with like the application of relative identity to the Trinity.
Such as?
So I have a syllogism. Do you want me to read it out?
Sure. You can read it.
Wait. Can I send it to you so you can read it out, or like put it on screen?
Who, me?
You put it on screen.
Wait, I can't put it on screen. Wait 1 sec. Wait, I can send it to you here. I will send it to you here.
No, you just put it on screen. Bro.
I send it to you. I don't know how to put it on screen, bro.
You don't know how to put it on screen.
No, wait. You can put it. I send it to you.
Okay. Well, you sent it to me on what, Discord?
No, I sent it to G1. Wait, I can send it to you as well.
On what, on Discord?
Yeah.
On my screen.
I'll refute the argument. So let's go to premise 1. P1, if relative identity Trinitarianism is true, then Father, Son, Holy Spirit are really identical to God, but not really identical to each other. So in premise 1, I'm employing a framework of real identity, which was developed by Leibniz as like two terms being the same, really the same, if one can be substituted for the other without altering the truth value. That is because they're going to be like ontologically the same thing in reality.
But you need to learn.
You don't have to speak in full-time speed, bro. Let me just read the comment. You know what I'm saying? The argument's there. So if our Trinity is true, and the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit are really identical to God, but not really identical to each other. So if X and Y are really identical to Z, then X and Y must be substitutable and so with Z in an extensional lens. The Father is really identical to God, Trinitarian possibly. The Son is really identical to God from premise 2, 3, and 4. If it was the Fs must be substitutable.
Yeah, let me just elaborate on the argument. Let me just elaborate on the argument.
Bro, let me read it.
Okay.
Why would you look? Maybe you should have elaborated before giving me the argument. Let me just read the argument. Where it said from premise 2, 3, and 4, it follows where F and S must be substituted with G and extension lens. If F and S are substituted with G and extension lens, then a substitution cannot differ in reality by the definition of identity and substitution.
The argument.
The substitution F and S. Your arm, my bro.
Oh, sorry.
The substitution of F and S is different reality. It's a Trinitarianism that says where F does not equal S. Okay, cool. So let me look at premise 1. So premise 1 are really identical to God. So what do you mean like really?
Yeah, so like the argument is employing modus tollens and like postulating what Athari teaches and like modus ponens as well. So like from P5 on to C2 is going to be modus tollens. From P1 to C1 is going to be modus ponens, and like postulating what relative identity teaches. So like to elaborate on P1, since you asked about P1 is employing like a framework of real identity as was like developed by Leibniz. It's like two terms being really the same if one can be substituted for the other without altering the truth value. So that has to do with like co-referentiality, which is between like two terms which are like ontologically the same, meaning they are like the same thing in reality. So you would say like the Father and the divine essence are like ontologically the same, or they like co-referential, so they refer to the same thing in reality. So this argument just tries to demonstrate that like relative identity doesn't work with extensional logic. Actually, want to say like the Father and Son, like the Father, Son, Spirit are like co-referential with the divine essence, but like in the proposition the Son is the divine essence, you cannot substitute the divine essence there with the Father, even though they're co-referential.
So okay, so premise 2 is using so this substitutivity principle, is it going to be the unrestricted version which is understood by classical logicians?
It's not unrestricted because it wouldn't work it wouldn't like apply to like intentional context.
No, because the point is this principle, the point, premise 2 is indicating more substitutivity, and that's what's being indicated here, right?
Yeah, but I wouldn't say it applies to like intentional context, like how
Yeah,
it's like
you're talking about
like
extensional.
yeah,
Yeah.
how it's like usually understood. It doesn't apply to intentional context. So for instance, if I say like for instance, like Spider-Man and Peter Parker are going to be co-referential, or like Superman and Clark Kent are going to be co-referential. But for instance, in the proposition, I believe Spider-Man is like a great. I cannot substitute Spider-Man there with Peter Parker because my belief pertains to the concept associated with the term Spider-Man, which isn't the same as associated with the term Peter Parker. Hence, in intentional context, the substitutivity of like co-referential terms can fail and alter truth value, but like in extensional context, it cannot. So
Yeah, wait, Veritas, move your head again. Defines compliments 2, 3, and 4. The 4 is at the front. Yeah, premise 2 is false.
okay, so if x and y are really identical to z, x, y must be substituted salvo veritatis with z in extensional length. Yeah, so that's just akin to saying like if x and y are co-referential terms, then you
Yeah, I
can
know, but
substitute x and y with like in like an extensional
I
sense.
know.
So like okay, so like
Yeah,
do you know like in extensional context you can substitute co-referential term if they
you're
like
actually,
have the say denotation or reference.
You have
you already said that, bro. Let me respond and tell you the reason why.
Okay.
Right, so when we look at co-referentiality, this semantics isn't what I adhere to since Peter Gage deviates from the semantics. He doesn't believe that terms are going to be co-referential, right? Since the implication here is going to be in reference to Leibniz's law, right? Because when we look at co-referentiality, let's say, for example, Superman and Clark Kent, but when we look at, let's say, for example, a domain, and we say that, okay, there's two terms which refer to the object, and they co-refer, meaning that in any context, you can substitute it in the respect to that thing, and it wouldn't actually destroy the thing which is being referred. But that semantics isn't something which I adhere to. So the distinction which Peter Geach lays out is going to be a name of and name for terminology, which is going to be a semantics which I adhere to when it comes to reference
Yeah, that's fine.
to the
I mean,
cheapest form. No, wait, hold on. Meaning that there's going to be contexts, right, in which we could say that the father cannot be substituted for the son just because the father is son of God, right? Because the term God, right, and the term son isn't going to be co-referential.
okay, wait 1 second. So yeah, I mean you don't have to be committed to the semantics, but you still want to like say you're still ontologically committed to the fact that like the persons are going to be co-referential to the divine as insofar as like they refer to the same thing in reality.
No.
Because if you're like wait 1 second, if you hold to like Thomistic Trinitarianism or like then Trinitarianism, you still want to say like the persons are identical qua their essence in reality, which is going to be like an ontologically privileged sort of, which like furnishes their like unity in reality. So you still want to say like ontologically they're going to be same thing, hence you can like posit that they're the same object, whatever. But the point is like even if you're not committed to this I mean you're still committed to the idea that like the son and divine essence are still going to be the same thing in reality. So like the point is like if you say like they have the same denotative content or like they refer to the same thing in reality, then it's P2 is just going to be like follow from the fact that if they're co-referential then they're going to be substitutable in extensional lengths. You said like they're not going to be substitutable in like some context, but like either those contexts are going to be extensional or intentional. If you're going to say like if you're going to appeal to like intentional context, that's fine, because co-referential terms can like fail to be substituted like in intentional context. But like if you're saying they cannot be like extensionally substituted, then you're denying that their co-referentiality, and hence you're saying that they're not the same thing in reality.
No, that doesn't follow. Just because I say that the term son and the term essence are not co-referential doesn't mean that they're not the same in reality. That's implying that that's a semantics, right, which is going to be necessary for an individual to understand or accept for there to be the same thing in reality. Sameness here, right, needs to be cashed out. So what do you mean by same in reality?
exactly.
That's just completely false.
Wait, you don't know what like sameness in reality means? Like, do they have this, like the same denotative content? Are they like identical qua being? Like, do they have the same existence? Like,
okay.
Experimentally, are they going to?
Can I say something, G1?
Yeah, go ahead.
He said identical qua being or qua existence. That's literally relative identity. They're saying that.
I'm saying but I'm trying to demonstrate that there's going to be relative identities at odds with extensional logic.
Exactly. So,
Extensional logic, yeah, but you need to understand that when it comes to the semantics in which you're employing, right, it isn't the semantics which is adhered by relative identity theorists such as Peter Keach, Nicholas Griffin. They state that when it comes to terms, the way in which they refer to objects isn't going to be the same in the way in which is understood by classical logicians such as like Graham Priest and Dr. Stephen Jimbo, right? Because they're going to say that when we say two terms refer to the same object, right, we're going to imply that there's going to be some absolute identity relation. Hence, if we see that these two terms don't refer to the same object or they're not co-referential, then you're going to say that in reality they're not the same, and the sameness here is going to be indicative of an absolute identity relation,
yeah.
right? But that's going to be relative to an absolutist theory of identity, which I don't accept, right? Because when you look at the reductionist, right, I take a non-reductionist policy, meaning that there's going to be some statements which are absolute, some statements which are relative, meaning that the way I understand the terms to refer isn't going to be the classical way in which is understood by these logicians who take the classical logic or classical understanding of identity. Hence, right, when you say that these two terms, right, are not co-referential, then they're not going to be the same in reality. It's going to be relative to your position, right, which is just going to be put in question, right? And then the alternative, hold up, man, you yapped, bro. Like, what the heck? You made a lot of points, right? So the alternative position here is going to be that we don't believe that the term like God and the term Father are co-referential, but we do believe that the way in which the terms are picked out is going to be in reference to a distinction which Peter Keach lays out, which is going to be a name of, a name for distinction, right? So the name for God is going to pick out the general category in which like the entity belongs to, right? The name of will specify the instantiation or the individual, but it doesn't really specify a category by which the entity belongs to. So when we say the name for God, right, this is going to be a category in which we say that the three persons belong to. But the name of, which will be the indications of like the three persons' names, the Father, Son, the Holy Spirit, that's just going to be indicating the three persons, right, in which maintains that the three persons are God under this notion of them belonging to this category, but they're not each other because the terms pick out the individuals because of the properties which refer to them. And this is consistent with relative identity, since we're saying that, you know, the Father and the Son are the same God, but not the same person.
Yeah. One thing I want to add to that is if you look at this argument, the reason why it sucks if you grant like
Wait 1 second, can I respond to G1 because you guys are going to make too many points?
You respond, but
yeah. So okay, so first of all, you said the way they refer to objects is not going to be the same as like adopted by modern logicians, like absolute identity. So like you said, like you elaborate on like Peter Keach, like him adopting like relative identity, and like it's not going to be the same because like co-referentiality is going to like presuppose some absolutist framework. But that's fine. Even I don't think my argument presupposes absolute identity. I'm doing like an I'm arguing that like relative identity itself is like going to be also with like extensional logic. You still want to say the persons are numerically identical to God, to the divine essence, insofar as like it's going to be like the sameness of an object to itself. You want to say it's the sameness of an object to itself. So it's going to be like a reflexive relation between the persons to the divine essence. It's just going to refer to like the relation of an object to itself, and it's just going to be like there's going to be just one object in reality. So if you say that, then you're just effectively saying that they are co-referential because it's the same object in reality. And if you grant that, then if you grant that, then you're effectively conceding they're co-referential. If they're co-referential, then you can substitute them in like extensional context. It doesn't matter. But wait 1 second. Wait, can I respond to what you're saying?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So like you further said like we don't believe they're co-referential, but the way the terms are picked out is in reference to them sort of blah blah. That's fine. Yeah. Again, if you say like they're numerically the same, that's all I want you to say. So it's just going to be non-relational sameness of an object to itself. If you concede that, then that already amounts to like a referentiality. So and you said like the name for God picks out the general category to belong to and blah blah. You're just explaining relative identity. That's fine.
Okay, look.
Hold on, because you keep saying, because you keep you're saying it's fine. You're saying that the semantics which I laid out is good, right? And you accept the semantics, but then the whole point is, right, you shouldn't accept the semantics, Because if you do, that means your argument is not going to follow through, right? Because you stated that, okay, cool. If these two terms co-refer, right, to the same object, then they are going to be the same in reality. If the two terms don't co-refer to the same object, right, or they're not co-referential, then they're not going to be the same in reality. So you're implying the semantics within your own system, but the semantics imply an identity relation which is being rejected here.
Wait, one second. I'm applying my own
Hold on,
semantics.
let me lie. Because you said that, oh, if the father, right, the term father and the term God, right, co-refer or don't co-refer, they're not going to be the same reality. That's just false, right? And I gave you an alternative when it comes to the semantics, right? Because we have a distinction on the way in which terms refer to objects, in which indicate that, okay, cool. So the term God is going to be the name form, by which we say that, the three persons fall under. The name of, right, signifies the individuals or the instantiations by which we say are proper to each, right, because they pick out each individual, right, because of the properties which pertain to them, but it doesn't indicate, right, a different God or multiple gods because it's retained by the notion of God, in which doesn't refer to any other creature or any other entity, but maintains it because of the importation of indiscernibility by which we can count one God.
Okay, yeah, okay. I mean, you're just resetting. The last point, I was just resetting what you also said previously, like the name for objects of like a general category they belong to. Name of the three persons is going to indicate the name of like it's going to indicate three persons, blah blah. Three persons are got under this notion, under the notion of category, like of God, blah blah. They're just explaining relative identity. That's all fine. But like you said, if the term found, you responded to me by saying like if the term found and God don't co-refer, then they're not going to be same in reality. But you said like, yeah, that's wrong because it can be same in reality, like some sort of. That's what you're assuming. But like that, but
it's not what I'm
wait,
assuming.
one second. That's fine. Wait, but here's the problem. Like you still want to give like ontological privilege to the sort of like a being or object. You want to say it because that preserves like a transortal unity, like among the persons of the Trinity in reality. You want to say like they're the same being or they are the same essence or they're the same existence, the same reality, they're the same object. That's all fine. If you say that, then there's just I think there's amounting to co-referentiality. Like Spider-Man and Peter Parker are also precisely like the same object in reality, and hence they can be substituted in extensional context. For instance, when I say Spider-Man is 5'6", I can substitute Peter Parker with Spider-Man there, which is not going to alter the truth value. So you're
Okay.
just and like this also like there's also like a problem with relative identity, because like relative identity doesn't provide like a principled criterion for like which sort of furnishes the most fundamental like identity statement. If you like say X and Y are purportedly identical under N, but like they're discernible under P, like saying that N is like going to be like the definitive sortal which determines the transortal unity between X and Y is just going to be arbitrary under your framework. So you're not going to have like, and if you say like what furnishes the most fundamental identity statement is going to be being, then yeah, that's all I want you to say. I want you to say that they are the same object or being in reality, and hence they're going. And if you say that, then they're just going to be substitutable in like extensional context. Because I cannot think of any context in which like two the one and the same object is not substitutable with itself in like an extensional context.
Okay, wait. Let me just say something. Okay. First off, you gave the critique that in relative identity, we cannot establish a principled way of making sure that an identity statement is furnished relatively rather than absolutely. And that's a critique that's made on the impure relative identity.
I'm debating G1. Is he also going to? Are you taking over?
I didn't consider it a formal debate. I wanted to talk for some time.
Okay. I mean, he challenged me, so I wanted to talk with him, but that's fine.
You came up here, buddy. What you talking about?
I mean,
Yeah, no. It's what you used to do little.
You challenged.
No.
You challenged me previously. Now you're like running away.
Yeah, no.
You want Ritas to take over?
It's not running away. I'm just trying
to. Okay. Do you want to talk with me? Shall talk with me right
now?
Yeah,
I want to talk with you.
Refute the points I made. Refute the points.
The points you made is silly, right? Because you're conflating between different. You're talking about you're conflating between different philosophical topics, right? Because you're saying, okay, cool, right? You're still going to be committed to like these metaphysical, understandings such as like sameness, qua being, or in reality, or whatever. But that doesn't do with meaning in itself, right? Even though it's interrelated in some way, in some manner, that doesn't mean that just because you have this metaphysical view, that the individual in which you're speaking to has the same view on meaning. That's just not going to be the case, right? Because when you're talking about like semantics or the way in which terms refer, you're talking about meaning, right? So you're talking about the philosophy of language, and the philosophy of language is very diverse in the way in which people understand it, right? And we can see this by Ludwig Wittgenstein. We can see this by Frege. We can also see this by Peter Geach, because Peter Geach also implements some views from Frege and also implements some views from the scholastics. So when you're talking about sameness relation in reality, which is going to be an ontological concept, that's different to how do terms refer? What do they mean? Right? Because what the thing means and the thing in itself is not the same thing in meaning, right? Because when we talk about a man, right, in reality, such as like SY, and what a man means, right, those are not the same thing. So when I told you, cool, right, yes, I do believe that in reality, the three persons are God, right? But that doesn't mean that when we look at these like semantics, such as co-referentiality, right, which is classically understood by these logicians, but that is going to be something which I adhere to, right? That's something which you actually have to show for that to be the case, because it has an undertone, right, in which I do reject, which is just going to be absolute identity. And I already told you that when we look at the terms God and the term Father, they're not going to be co-referential. But if they're not co-referential, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be the same reality. Again, you have to prove that. So I'm asking you, Reform. So are you saying that if two terms don't co-refer to the same object, they're not the same thing in reality? Are you there, Reform?
Okay, let me deal with your points. So here, these are all the points you made. These are all the points you made.
Yeah, but answer the
Wait
question.
1 second. Wait 1 second. No, wait.
I'm
So
saying you can.
wait
I'm
1
saying
second.
you
Can I
can.
deal with your points? Wait, can I deal with your
But I'm
points?
saying you can, but because you talk a lot, it's not like you just take 10 seconds.
Okay, let me deal with your main point. Then let me deal with your main point.
This
Okay.
is the main point, bro.
No, wait.
I'm
Okay,
asking you the
let
question.
me wait 1 second. Can I not refute what you said?
Yeah, the main point relates to the question which I asked you. So answer the
Okay, ask
question.
your question. I will refute you. I refute what you said, and then
You
I will
didn't-
answer your question.
So you didn't hear what I said then. So you don't even know my main point relates to the
Wait. I wrote down what you said, so let me deal with it.
Okay, so then if you knew what I said, right, and my question related to the point, so what was my question?
Wait, I didn't hear your question. I was talking about like what you said
So you
previously.
didn't
Wait,
hear my
because I
question.
want to respond to what you said previously. You didn't want to. You don't let me. You
My
don't let me, you don't-
question relates to my main point. So I want to
Okay,
tell you
ask your question again. Ask your question again.
So the question is, if two terms don't refer to the same object, they don't co-refer, is the implication going to be that they are not the same in reality? Are you there?
Yeah, okay, so let me deal with your let me answer your question and deal with your previous points.
Yeah, answer the question.
Yeah. So like your question was, if two terms don't refer to the same object, they don't co-refer, is the same implication that they're not the same in reality. Yeah. So if you say like they're not the same object, yeah, the implication is that they're not the same in reality. But obviously, you want to say they're refer to the same object, so they're going to be the same in reality.
Bro,
and hence they're going to be co-referential.
You're speaking too fast.
Here. I was saying that if you say they are the same object, then they obviously refer to the same thing in reality, and hence they're going to be co-referential. So your question was, if two terms don't refer to the same, if two terms don't co-refer to the same thing in reality, is it the same implication they're not the same in reality? Yeah. Obviously, if they don't co-refer, then they're not going to be the same in reality.
Yeah, and that's
obviously that's just going to be an analytic truth. Like what co-referential? Wait 1 second. You don't even let me talk. Wait, you don't even let me talk.
Go ahead.
Wait, I let you talk. Wait, I let you talk. Wait, I let you talk. Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead, bro. You just cut yourself.
Here, okay, let me repeat your question once again. You said if two terms don't co-refer to the same object, they don't co-refer, is the implication they're not the same in reality? Yes, of course, because that's just going to be an analytic truth. Co-referentiality means that two terms are the same thing in reality. If they are not the same thing in reality, then they're not the same thing, same thing in reality. That's just trivial. Like, I don't know what your question even... like what you want to achieve with the question, because that's just going to be analytically true. So you're not saying anything. But here, wait 1 second. Let me deal with your previous points now. Wait, can I deal with your previous points? So,
you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so here, this is what you said. Okay, let me just deal with your main points, because you made many irrelevant remarks. So here, so you appeal to like sameness in reality is not going to be the same as like the sameness in concept, blah blah. You said like Yeah, that's fine. That's again intentional. That's why I mentioned intentional context during this conversation, because under intentional context, even if two terms don't have the same meaning, in intentional context, like their substitution can fail, but like in extensional context, their substitution cannot fail without like altering the truth. Like their substitution cannot fail, and hence they won't alter a different like they won't alter the truth value. So my question was like you want to say like they are the same thing in reality. I can concede that like you believe that they're not going to be the same in concept. That's all fine, because in an extensional context, the only thing that matters is like whether two terms are like referred to the same thing in reality, not whether they refer to the same thing in concept. And we can demonstrate, and I can demonstrate this by numerous example, where like in extensional context, it doesn't matter like whether two terms are going to be like the same in meaning or like virtually the same, because like in extensional context, the only thing that matters is going to be the denotation or the reference of the like of that thing. So this is just going to be trivial. So you said if you look at co-referentiality, which is scholastically referred to, this is what I adhere to. I mean, yeah, that's fine. I already posed this question. Are they going to be numerically the same? Numerically the same insofar as there's going to be like a non-relational sameness of an object to itself. So you want to say the Father is the same object as the Son. Or like the Father is the same object as the divine essence. If you say that, then they're just going to be co-referential. So, and hence you can substitute them in like an extensional context. There's going to like, but this is the problem. Like you cannot substitute them in an extensional context according to your view, because it would alter the truth value. And hence they're not really truly co-referential. So like relative identity doesn't work with like extensional logic. It's just self-refuting. So like I want you to deal with those points.
Yeah, I already told you that's what's being rejected. We don't. So you're saying if two terms don't co-refer to the same object, then we are not the same reality. That condition was being rejected, right? And so this view of referentiality, where do you derive it from? What view is it? So I know explicitly what's being indicated. What's your view on referentiality? Where are you deriving it from? Come off mute.
Yeah. I read like if you read the syllogism. Like,
I'm asking you.
Wait,
I'm
one
asking
second.
you.
One second. At the end.
I'm asking you a question.
Wait, one second. At the end
What's
of the
your view? What's your no.
Yeah, I'm giving my view. I'm giving
I
my
already
view.
read the syllogism. Your view is going to be implicit. I'm asking you a question, bro. Come off.
Yeah, I'm giving my view. At the end.
Okay, what's your view on referentiality? Yeah, where do you get it from?
Yeah, at the end of the syllogism, I give the definition for your identity.
I'm asking you this view.
I give the definition of real identity at the end of my syllogism.
Did I ask you about real identity or referentiality? Which one?
It's going to relate to co-referentiality.
I'm asking. But did I ask you something? Yeah, did I ask you about reference? Did I ask you about real identity or referentiality?
Yeah, co-referentiality, just like how modern philosophers understand it.
Your view on reference, right? How
it's
where do you get it from?
Originally derived from Leibniz, but like how modern philosophers understand it. Yeah, but like how modern philosophers understand it.
So how? Wait.
One second. But I'm saying that you don't even have to presuppose like an absolutist framework. Even in a relative framework, you could say that they are the same object, and hence it would like contradict it wouldn't work with extensional logic.
So
because if two terms are the same object, they're still going to be co-referential in some sense.
We're trying to build, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because you have a lot of undertones or baggages on these concepts where needs to really be cashed up right now. So your view, so you're telling me your view right now on reference is by Leibniz. Your views on how terms refers from Leibniz right now.
Yeah, I mean, real identity was like originally.
I'm not talking about
wait, 1 second. Wait, can I talk? Wait, you don't even let me talk. Wait.
Yeah, but you're talking about something which I'm not gonna ask it. No, because
wait. Okay. Wait, no, I'm gonna.
Because
answer.
I want you to address my question.
I'm gonna answer. So like it's going to be originally articulated by Leibniz, where he said like real identities between two terms if they cannot be substituted cannot be substituted without if they can be substituted in every context without like altering the truth value. That's because they're going to be ontologically or numerically the same. But I can just agree with like what modern philosophers are saying.
I'm asking you a question. Your view and how terms refer.
Yeah, I just said like
modern philosophers
and Leibniz, modern philosophers.
You're talking about real identity. Yes, it does talk about terms, right? But that's going to be a satisfaction of Leibniz's law. Like if you're taking this like Leibniz's law to be what's like indicated here, then I can assume that your view of reference is going to correspond to Frege, right?
Wait, what are you saying?
Your cook. That's what I'm going to say.
I'm talking to.
So your view on reference.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. What's your question?
Okay, cool. Because you're trying
I'm
to
just
say,
I'm saying how modern philosophers understand it. But listen,
that's not very.
wait, I'm
That's
saying
not
that
very,
I'm saying that you don't even have to presuppose like an absolutist framework. Even in the relative
bro.
framework, even in the relative identity framework, you still want to say the Father and Son are like the same object, or like Father and
Bro.
Essence are the same object. If you say that, or like you say that they are numerically the same, and they're just going to be. I think they're just going to be like they're just going to be. It can just be substituted in every extensional context.
I've
Because the
never.
only thing that matters is whether they're like the same thing in reality, and that just by extension just means whether they are like the same object. Because what is reality? You don't know, like being and like
I've never.
it's going to like
That's what
be
I'm
it's going
talking
to be
about,
related to like being an object. So
bro. Look, bro. You're yapping about something which I never asked for. What was my question? I want to know if you understand what I said. What was the question which I asked you?
so your question was, where do I derive my understanding of co-referentiality from?
The way terms refer, right?
Yeah,
Okay, so
co-referentiality.
where? Because you're talking about identity in which, yeah, it is cashed out, but that's not what I'm asking for, right? Because when we're talking about the way in which terms refer, we're talking about your view on meaning, philosophy of language, right? So where do you derive this view from, buddy? Come off mute, bro.
Wait, I really answered that.
We're talking about
I said how like modern philosophers understand it, and like
that's
it's articulated by
which one? Give me one. Which one?
like the ones you literally mentioned,
Which one? Oh my
Yeah,
god. Which
free,
one?
like free,
Who?
free. But it's going to be originally.
You say free.
Wait, I said it's originally going to be articulated by Leibniz. So
Which
wait,
actually, oh my god.
one second. I said it's originally going to be I said it's
Yeah, you
going
don't
to
know
be
what you're
originally.
talking about. You don't know
Wait
what
one
you're talking
second. Wait 1 second. I said it's going to be originally articulated by Leibniz, and I derive this understanding from I derive my understanding of co-referentiality from him. But I said even under like an. I said even wait 1 second. I said even under like an relative like identity framework. I still think it's still going to be like problematic, because you still want to say they're going to be the same object. They're going to the sort of like being is going to be ontologically is going to have like ontological privilege, and that's going to be like problematic. Given that
someone yap about something I never
if two terms
asked.
are the same object, then they're still going to be substitutable in extensional context.
I've never seen someone yap. So your view on referentiality is who again? Who?
I already answered that. I already answered so many times.
You gave different names. Who?
Who? Yeah, I already
Yes.
said like originally it's going to be articulated by Leibniz.
No, you articulated his view on identity. Identity is going to deal with logic, right? When you're talking about way in which terms refer, that deals with meaning, right? And that corresponds to philosophy of language, right? So your view on meaning in respect to philosophy of language, where does that derive from?
Wait, my understanding of meaning?
Well, no, when you talk about terms, what do you think that means?
Wait, but you're talking about co-referentiality, right?
Co-referentiality deals with
wait,
philosophy.
co-referentiality has nothing to do with meaning.
Aki, yes, it really does.
Wait, 1 second. That's a blunder.
In this context, it does.
No, you're stupid. No, you're stupid.
In this context, let me learn.
Wait, you're stupid.
Let me learn.
Wait, 1 second. No, you wait 1 second. 1 second.
Don't interrupt me.
Co-referentiality has to do with two things being the same thing in reality. It has nothing to do with like meaning of terms. That's going to be like that just has to do with intentional context, where like in difference in various in meaning is generated through like propositional attitudes. It has nothing to do with co-referentiality, because like co-referentiality is just going to relate to like two terms being the same thing in reality. They're going to have the same denotative content. They're going to have the same referentiality. It's nothing to do with like difference in meaning or like sameness in meaning, whatever. Meaning doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, you don't understand. When you're talking about like terms and the way in which they refer, does that deal with meaning? Yes or no?
We're talking about how they refer in reality.
I'm asking you how the way in which terms refer.
Wait, no, of course not. It has to do whether they're the same thing in reality.
I'm asking you.
Wait, it has to do whether they're the same thing in reality.
So let me ask you a question.
Wait 1 second. It has to do whether they are the same thing in reality. It has nothing to do with formality. Wait, it doesn't have anything to do with the formality of a term.
No, it doesn't.
Wait,
so when it
you
comes
don't know
to
what co-referentiality means. You don't know what co-referentiality means. Co-referentiality, here.
Can you shut the hell up for a second?
Wait, you're so stupid.
Co-referentiality, like sense of reference, right? There's just going to be an object, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this object actually exists.
Yeah, but this object doesn't have any, like, when you're saying like two things are co-referential, they refer to the same thing in reality. That's nothing to do with the formality of a thing. That's nothing to do with the definition of a thing.
You're not listening. When it comes to, look, I'm gonna ask you
No,
something.
you're
very
stupid.
simple.
That's not
I'm
what
gonna ask you something
co-referentiality
very.
is.
I'm gonna ask you.
You don't know what co-referentiality is.
Shut up. Right, sense and reference. Is this a topic on the philosophy of language, or a topic on the logic?
Wait 1 second. Can you restate that?
Look, Frege's view on sense and reference, right? Is this a topic on the philosophy of language or logic?
Is it like top on philosophy language or like logic? It has
Yes.
to do with like philosophy language, obviously, but it's not going to wait. 1 second. I finish though. It doesn't have to do with like the meaning of terms. It has to do with whether they are the same thing in reality. So like two terms can be virtually or formally distinct, but they can still refer to the same thing in reality. That's what co-referentiality is. That's what co-referentiality concerns with.
Listen. Co-referentiality, right? When you talk about reference and the way in which time refers, there's different ways in which it's understood by different people, right? There's a way in which it's understood by Ludwig Wittgenstein. There's a way in which it's understood by Frege. There's a way in which it's understood by Scott Skolmes, Bertrand Russell. So when you talk about old terms and reference, right, their view on the way in which terms refer is not going to be the same, correct?
The way in which terms refer isn't going to be the same.
I'm saying the way in which people understand terms to refer is not going to be the same. When we say terms refer, and the way in which it's understood by Ludwig, Frege, and also Bertrand Russell, is it going to be the same?
No, obviously not. I mean, they're different. There are going to be different understandings. That's fine.
Okay, beautiful. So when we say, oh, these two terms don't co-refer.
But right, 1 second, wait 1 second. Yeah, but if you mean like co-refer, wait 1 second. If by co-refer you're applying like co-referentiality, you're referring to co-referentiality. Co-referentiality is concerned with like whether two things are like the same thing in reality. It doesn't have to do with like the formalities of a thing. It doesn't have to do with the definition of a thing. If that's what you meant, then that's going to be like problematic. If you like meant something else, then that's fine. But that's what I'm concerned about. If you say that, that's wrong. Because co-referentiality has to do with whether like two things are the same thing in like reality. It's not concerned with their formalities or like their meaning. Because like their meaning can differ, and hence and still under an extensional context you can substitute them. But like after all, you didn't refute my argument. You said like my argument is presupposing like an absolutist framework. I really said like even under relative identity framework, they're still going to give ontological privilege to the sort of being and hence or object, and you're still going to say like the Father and Son are like or the Father and the Divine Essence refer to the same object. If you concede that, then that's game over, because like the same object is just going to be substitutable in like extensional context. There's no example of like one object not being substitutable with itself in like extensional context. It's only going to be pertain to intentional context. You didn't refute anything I said.
Bro,
let's you want talk, and then after I'm gonna add something, and then
this is it. Look, I'm gonna be very simple, right? So the condition is the condition that you presented to me, right? And it's just going to be, I reformalize it to be modus tollens. You're saying if two terms don't refer to the same object, then we are not the same in reality, right? This sameness relation, what's the sameness relation which is being picked out here? What identity relation is being picked out here, buddy? Are you there in the concept?
I'm assuming like your relative identity framework. Wait 1 second. Wait, can I talk? I'm assuming the relative identity framework and saying that it can be falsified under the criteria of extensional logic, because like you want to say they're co-referential insofar as they like refer to the same object or thing in reality.
You just
if you say that
you don't need to do.
You don't have to do the whole yapping. So
no, but this is the point. This is the point. Wait 1 second. I'm done. I'm almost done. You're saying my argument presupposes absolute identity, but I'm saying even under a relative identity framework, you still want to say that they are the same object or thing in reality. Object is going to be like the sort of which furnishes the transortal unity among the persons, because you want to say the persons are the divine essence are the same object in reality.
Hold on.
And hence, if you concede that even under relative identity framework, even if you don't concede that, I'm saying that it's self-refuting, because relative identity would collapse in absolute identity.
Look. See, you keep you love doing this so people can fade because you talk for 10 seconds, right? Cool. So I want to repeat the conditional again. Right, we're gonna get precise answer. I'm gonna build from
Can you repeat this? Wait, can you repeat this?
Can you shut the hell up? Right, so Look, the conditional is if two terms don't refer to the same object, then they are not the same in reality. The sameness here, which is being picked out, is going to be a relative identity relation or an absolute identity relation. Which one? Because if it's a relative identity relation, right, then this conditional is not going to be true. Why? Because we believe that the term God, right, and the term Father are not co-referential, but they
Wait,
are the same in
wait,
reality.
are you
Shut the hell up, man.
stupid? Wait, are you
Shut the hell up,
stupid?
shut the hell
Wait,
up, shut the hell up,
wait,
shut the hell up,
wait,
shut the hell up, shut the
wait.
hell up, shut the hell
You
up,
asked your
shut the hell up,
question. Wait, you
shut the
asked
hell
your
up, shut
question.
the hell up, shut the hell up, I'm talking. Shut the hell up, right? Because I specified the condition, right? You said if two terms, we're gonna repeat again. I want you to type in the comments, right? So if two terms don't co-refer, they're not co-referential, don't co-refer, then they are not the same in reality. If two terms, so that's the conditional. I asked you, is the sameness relation here absolute or relative? You said relative, right? So if the identity relation here is going to be relative, right, then this condition is going to be false. Why? Because we believe but the Father, right, and the essence don't co-refer, but they are the same reality.
Wait, that's a contradiction. Are you stupid?
How's that a contradiction?
That's literally a contradiction. That's self-refuting. If you're saying that the terms don't co-refer, but they're still the same thing in reality, this is going to be analytically false because given the definition of what like co-referentiality refers to, it's going to be the two terms are the same thing in reality. You're saying they're the same thing in reality, but they're still not co-referential. That's self-refuting. That's self-refuting. And wait one second. You don't now you will let me talk. And even if I can accept like a relative identity framework here. I'm saying that if you accept a relative identity framework, it's going to like collapse. It's not going to be coherent under like extensional logic, because you still want to say like even under relative identity, you still want to say the Father and the divine essence are the same object. An object just picks out like what they like their being, their existence, like experimentally. They're still the Father and divine essence are still the same thing. Numerically, they're the same. It's going to be the relational sameness of an object to itself, and hence, even if you say that, that's going to be problematic, because then it would be like it's still like it would amount to co-referentiality, and if that's the case, then they would be substitutable in their extensional context. So like even if you say like my argument doesn't presuppose absolute identity, I'm saying that even under relative identity, you still want to say that the Father and the Son are identical qua like the same being or object, so they are the same. Like they are identical to the common ontological substance or reality, and hence if you say that, that's going to be problematic and contradictory, given that under extensional logic they would be substitutable without altering the truth value.
Yeah, so okay, cool. So again, the reason why it's not going to be a contradiction, because you're imposing an idea of referentiality regarding terms, which is just going to be rejected here. Since the way in which Peter Geach lays out terms to refer to objects, right, is going to be different in the way in which is understood by Frege and other like logicians in reference to like classical logic or in association with Leibniz's law. Because when we look at co-referentiality in this case, it indicates that if two terms refer to the same object in reality, then it can be substituted in any given context, right? In any given context. In any given context is going to imply a satisfaction of Leibniz's law, which is being rejected here, because we don't believe that terms can be substituted in every given context, right, if the identity relation here is relative. 1. 2, again, you're saying that if two terms don't co-refer, then they're not in the same in reality, right? So this conditional you have to prove. So give me an argument for me to accept this, because I don't accept this, but then you're saying this analytically true. So give me an argument for me to accept this condition.
Wait, what you said is completely wrong. Wait 1 second. What you said is completely wrong. Like again, you said like if they're going to be
Why
like.
are you clipping? Focus.
Wait 1 second.
Focus,
Wait 1
my bro.
second.
Why
Wait
are you
1
clicking
second.
your mouse? Focus, my bro.
Wait 1 second. I'm writing down what you said.
Is it? You're writing down, but I'm not hearing the
I'm
keyboards, I'm hearing the mouse.
Wait, I wrote down what you said. So
Okay.
here's what you said. When we look at co-referentiality, Okay, here this, which the reason why it's not a contradiction because I'm employing a sense which is different from how Peter Geach, etc. understand it. When we look at co-referentiality, if two objects refer to the same object in reality, then they're going to be substitutable under all contexts, which we relative identity Trinitarians reject. Yeah, no, this is actually that's wrong. I really clarified that even under X intentional context, they're not going to be like even co-referential terms, they're not going to be substitutable under intentional context. Not going to be in all contexts. I'm specifically concerned about extensional context. You know what extensional context have to do with? You don't know what extensional context have to do with because that's otherwise you would understand what my argument is about. Extensional contexts are contexts where you can substitute two co-referential terms without altering the truth value.
Slow down,
Because
bro.
wait
Slow
one
down.
second.
Yeah,
Wait
slow
one
down,
second.
bro. You
Wait
have-
one second.
Slow
One
down.
second.
Slow down.
Yeah, I'm saying that.
No one's chasing
Wait.
you. What the heck? You're the only person.
Okay.
Slow down. Okay.
Okay, I will restate what you said.
You're speaking like someone's
wait,
chasing you,
I
man.
will restate what you said. So you said when we
No,
look
it's not
at
about restating. I'm saying slow down. What the
okay,
heck?
okay. So you said when we look at co-referentiality, if two objects refer to the same like.
Why are
same
you
thing-
looking, bro? Are you reading there?
Wait. I'm reading what you said.
What did I say now? Because I asked you.
No. Wait. I didn't finish. You didn't let me talk.
Okay, so what did I ask you to give to me? I asked you to give me an argument. Why are you not giving me an argument?
Yeah,
To
I'm
prove
giving
the
an
condition.
argument. Wait, I'm giving an argument.
Yeah, okay, what was the argument?
Wait, one
relevant
second.
to what?
Wait,
What
one
did I say?
second.
What did I say? What did I say?
Wait, one second. Yeah, I'm just.
What?
You don't wait. Can I talk? I will say what you said. This is what you said. When we look at co-referentiality, if like two objects refer to the same object in reality, they're going to be substitutable under all contexts. You said this is what we reject. You wouldn't say they're substitutable under all contexts.
Speaking under your breath again, bro. Not be wrong. Like you're very unaudible. Come off mute, bro. Oh my god, just come off mute.
After this little exchange, I'm literally gonna add something and move to the next person because I don't think
This is wait 1 second here. This is what you said. You said when we look. One second. You said when we look at co-referentiality.
What did I ask you to prove? Why is this guy this guy, someone's definitely calling him on Discord side. What's going on? He's not listening to the objections, he's not listening to the objections, the refutations.
why does he keep going on mute?
Because someone's calling and saying, yo, Aki, brava, you need to go. Hey, yo.
But you said this is what we reject.
Yeah, what did I ask you to prove? So you always even listening.
I'm saying that even under. Wait 1 second. I'm saying that
asking
even
you
under
something.
co-referential. Wait 1 second. 1 second. I said wait 1 second. I said even. Wait 1 second. I said even co-referential terms they can be feel to be substituted under like intentional context. So even under my framework, they're not going to be substitutable in all contexts. But the main point I'm concerned about is like in extensional context, because do you want to say like in extensional context, the Father and Divine Essence can be substituted without altering the truth value? Do you want to say that?
You're not responding to what I said. See, you're not listening. What was the argument? Yeah,
wait,
what was the argument?
1 second. Wait 1 second.
What was the argument?
Wait 1 second. That's what you said previously. I want to deal with that.
That isn't what I said prior to you speaking. Now you don't know. You're listening.
Let me explain.
Wait, that's what you said. That's literally what you said.
No one said I didn't say that. I said that's not what I said before I spoke to you. Use your brain. You're not listening.
Wait, that's what you said.
Okay, what did I say to you? Did I say I didn't say that, or it's not what I said prior to you speaking? Which is it?
Wait, prior to me speaking, you said that. That's why
prior to me speaking, did I ask you to prove something? Yes or no?
I think you did, but I want to.
I did, but that is prior to what I said.
Prior point.
Hold on.
Wait 1 second. I want to deal with your point. Wait, I wanted to deal with your before that. I wanted to deal with your point before that.
No. Because the argument, right, what I'm asking for is related to what I asked you prior to you speaking.